bienvenido a mi canal. Yo me llamo Sirey. Soy una abogada afro-latina licenciada practicando la ley criminal, pero como todos ustedes, a mí me fascina cuando estamos hablando de casos de crímenes reales. En este video vamos a continuar hablando de Karmelo Anthony. Si quieren más video en español, nada más dime allá abajo. Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Desiree. I'm a licensed and practicing Afro-Latina criminal attorney who, much like the rest of you, has a severe fascination with true crime cases. Listen, 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 listen. Okay, you guys. So, first things first, I told myself that I wasn't going to show too much of my personality, my quirks, my whatever in all of these videos, but then I decided, you know what, I'm going to show you guys who I really am. And the first thing that's on my mind as we're discussing this video or getting into this video is the fact that my nails are bald. Okay, my nails are bald, and I really tried really hard to make sure I had a new full set before I did this video for you guys. But guess what? It didn't work out, and I'm between nail techs, but there was a monumental verdict and a monumental sentence that was issued yesterday, and I just figured it might be appropriate for me to get on screen bald, nails and all. So let's go ahead and get started. The things I do for you, the things I do for love. This is our continued coverage on the case of Karmelo Anthony.
We're following breaking news out of Texas and the murder trial of a Texas teen. 19-year-old Karmelo Anthony has been found guilty of murder in the death of 17-year-old Austin Metcalf. Metcalf was fatally stabbed at a high school track meet, as you may recall, last year.
Okay, you guys. So I remember in the first video where we talked about Karmelo Anthony, I read to you guys from the arrest report based on some of the officers and their narratives about what happened when they responded to the scene. I figured that today might be appropriate for us to go back to that. And let me just read to you at least one officer's narrative about what the officer recalls happened at this scene. According to Officer Taylor Wetzel, on April 2nd of 2025, the narrative states the following. When I arrived on scene, I grabbed a roll of crime scene tape from my trunk and proceeded to the visitors' bleachers where dispatch advised that the victim was. While I was walking towards the visitors' bleachers, I was approached by a witness who identified himself as, and as you guys will see, the witness's name is obscured, and I presume that's because the witness was a minor. The witness began telling me what happened, and I asked him where the stabbing occurred. The witness advised that it happened under the Memorial High School pop-up tent in the visitors' bleachers. I immediately informed Sergeant Otis where the witness stated that the stabbing occurred and gave him the crime scene tape to start securing the crime scene. I then had the witness move to the walkway under the visitors' bleachers out of the rain to further speak with me. The following is a summary of my conversation with the witness. The witness advised he was sitting under the Memorial High School pop-up tent with his team and was near the victim, Austin, and the suspect who was later identified as Karmelo Anthony. Anthony was from Centennial High School and was sitting under the Memorial High School tent. Austin had told Anthony that he needed to move out from under the team's tent, and Anthony grabbed his bag, opened it, and reached inside and proceeded to tell Austin, "Touch me and see what happens." No one really thought Anthony really had any weapons in his bag, and Austin proceeded to touch Anthony, and then Anthony told Austin to punch him and see what happens. A short time later, Austin grabbed Anthony to tell him to move, and Anthony pulled out what the witness recalled as a black knife and stabbed Austin once in the chest and then ran away. Austin began grabbing his chest and telling everyone to get help. The witness advised he did not know Anthony's name, but stated that another Memorial track member named such and such, again, you guys will notice that the name is blurred, was friends with Anthony and he could identify Anthony. The witness described Anthony as a black male, skinny, with possibly a goatee, short puffy hair, and wearing Centennial High School clothing. This concluded my contact with the witness. Okay, so in my first video, you guys, I remember reading much more than that to you guys, but I thought it might be important for us to go back to that first original arrest report, the narrative from the officers, and just discuss what the officers said occurred, right? And I think that was important to me, specifically because I've seen a lot of different sources, different information about how the stabbing occurred. But this was the original officer report, officer narrative as told to the officers by a witness that was on the scene. I know that when we go into this trial testimony, there's different witnesses who recalled events differently, but I'm just saying this is exactly where the officer said it started or how it began. Okay, so let's carry on. Before we get into the trial itself, let me tell you guys some of my general opinions, thoughts, or whatever about some of the facts surrounding the trial, and then we'll go into what happened at the trial, okay? So the first thing I'll notice is this. The trial commenced here on June 1st of 2026. And on first impression, like my first thought of that was like, dang, that's quick, right? And I know a lot of you guys might disagree with me, but I think generally speaking, for a trial of this magnitude, this much media coverage, a trial that's literally everywhere, I don't know, like for it to proceed at a first trial setting, or at least the first trial setting that I'm aware of, that was really, really quick. I thought that was really, really quick. Okay. Remember, the incident here occurred in April of 2025. And so we're in trial just a little over a year later. And I know a lot of you guys might think to yourselves, well, Desiree, that's actually kind of long. And I'm telling you as a criminal attorney, no, it's not. A year is actually a rather short turnaround for a trial, okay? I just kind of expected at least one or two continuances from both sides as they were preparing their cases for this trial, and we didn't see any of that. So the fact that it went to trial at the first setting, again, the first setting that I'm aware of, I thought was a little interesting. The second thing that I thought was interesting about this case is that it commenced on June 1st of 2026, and it ended, meaning like we already had the verdict, and we already had the sentence on June 9th of 2026. It's also my understanding that they were in trial on Saturday. I've told you guys before, different jurisdictions do it differently. This is not the first time that I've heard of a jurisdiction holding court or trial or whatever on a Saturday. It is kind of rare. It is kind of rare. I don't know if I've ever done a trial on a Saturday. My work hours are Monday through Friday. I'm not doing nothing on a Saturday. However, different jurisdictions are different. So all in all, I think this trial lasted anywhere from like 7 to 8 days from beginning to conclusion. And that was also really quick to me. That was really quick. And I know a lot of you guys have the opinion like, this is an open and shut case, blah, 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 blah. I hear that. It's still a quick trial. And I want you guys to hear it from some other people who concur with what I am saying to you.
4 days of testimony. God, that is so quick.
Well, really 3.5, because it ended kind of early on Monday when the defense rested around 2:00 that we, abruptly. So really kind of like 3.5 days. So
this was a whirlwind. I've had DUIs that have taken longer than this case did. It's just incredible how quickly it moved along.
Misty, let me turn to you. 4 days of testimony, less than 3 hours of deliberations. Are you at all surprised at how quickly this all happened?
I was, Kate, because this is a complicated case. Even though you had, 4 days of testimony, you had a lot of witnesses, you had a video, but the video wasn't necessarily dispositive, could not see it. So the jury had a lot to go through. You also had murder for them to determine whether or not there was a conviction on murder, which there was, manslaughter and the self-defense element of it. So this was a very, very quick verdict.
Okay, you guys. So another thing that I noticed that a lot of people were up in arms about is literally the fact that there were no cameras allowed in the courtroom. I saw it from commentator after commentator. This is an injustice that the court decided to keep cameras out of the courtroom. And I just couldn't disagree more. I've told you guys before, right? A defendant is entitled to a public trial, but public just means the courtroom's open, right? Like if I was in the courthouse and I wanted to watch this trial, I could just go in and watch it. I'm sure because of this trial's magnitude and the coverage surrounding it, there'd be a lot of people. And I don't know if like I per se could go in and watch it, right? But like, I mean, like I would have the option, right? I'm not saying I could see every single day. I might have to, tussle with a few folks to be in. I might have to wait in a long line. But if I wanted to be in the courtroom, I could, right? And so that's what public trial means. I think post-COVID, we've gotten into this thinking where everything needs to be televised and live streamed. And I just don't agree with that. I'm trying to think so I can give you guys a personal example as it relates to my own practice. Let me think. I think that the default for most of my trials is that most of my trials are live streamed or televised or broadcasted in some way. However, there are exceptions to every rule. And there, like parties can request that it not be live streamed for whatever reason. I don't share the rage that a lot of people share in the fact that this court, i.e. the judge, decided not to have cameras in the courtroom. That doesn't bother me. And I just want to let you guys know that because of that, most of my coverage from this case come from people who are actually on the ground in the courtroom, as I told you can be, coming outside, telling their different media outlets, and then reporting it to all of us. So that's how I got most of my coverage on this case. But let's carry on.
The decision to not have cameras or any kind of streaming, was that an easy one?
Yes, it was an easy decision. And I'll tell you why. My primary goal in any case is to make sure that the defendant and the prosecution gets a fair trial, period. I have seen from other cases around the country where cameras in the courtroom changed the way that the judge acted, the lawyers acted, some of the witnesses acted, and we were not going to have that here. We were going to really isolate the purpose for which we were here for, which is to have that fair trial, and cameras in the courtroom did not enter into that equation at all.
How much grief did you get from people around you about that decision?
I don't know. I don't listen to it. I just flat don't listen to what's going on the outside. I do what I think is right, no matter what decision that is. And I sleep well at night knowing if I follow the law, then everything works out like it's supposed to. And so these outside influences, all the noise from the outside, I really isolated myself from that in this case and in all cases, and just do my job, do the best I can following the law.
Okay, you guys, another thing that I want to talk to you guys about some of the key players, right? And I know in the videos where I'm able to talk about the key players, I give you guys references of the key players so you just know who was inside the courtroom. And here I was able to find some information on the key players, and I figured I'd share it with you guys. Okay, you guys, so the judge who presided over this case is the Honorable Judge John Roach Jr. And I was able to find a little bit of information on him online, so let's just go ahead and get into what I was able to ascertain. First and foremost, Judge Roach is the presiding judge of Collin County. I'll continue by saying that Judge Roach served as a state district judge since 2007. Judge Roach's current term ends at the end of this year, December 31st of 2026, and he plans to retire at the end of the year. Prior to being a judge, he practiced law as a managing partner of Roach LLP and at Cowles and Thompson PC. According to this, he has presided over 20,000 cases, including felonies, family law, civil matters, and child protective services.
Your name and how you spell it.
My name is John Roach, John Roach.
Now, I know the answers to that. I know the answer to that question, but I got to ask it for the record.
100%.
You've been on the bench for some time.
Yep, I've been on the bench for about 20 years.
20 years. And this is the end.
In the 6 months, will be in the end.
Did you want to take on this trial?
I wanted the Collin County Judiciary to take on this trial. It was important to me to have somebody from Collin County preside over this Collin County case. So I didn't ask for it. No one, that's not how it works anyway.
Yeah.
I didn't ask for it, but I was certainly willing to do it because that was my duty.
In your conversations with, my guess it's an administrative judge who goes, I know they go down the list and they say, all right, it's your turn and it's your turn. As they go through all the conflicts of judges that may, potential conflicts, when they come and say, John, this may be yours, your first reaction is?
I'll take it. Every time. I think it's my job. It's my duty. That's what I was elected to do.
Yeah.
That's the oath that I took. And I'm going to do my job.
Okay, you guys, let's go ahead and stop right there. I'm not sure if I told you guys what a presiding judge is, but essentially a presiding judge is the supervisory judge, right? Like it's like the head judge for that specific district, right? And so the other judges would be technically under the presiding judge, meaning like the presiding judge is like the supervisory judge, the head judge, like the judge, and then there's everyone else. So I just want to make that distinction as we go into the key players in Karmelo Anthony's case, specifically because the attorneys here are a big deal too. Okay, you guys. So I saw a lot of chatter online about Karmelo's defense attorney being a public defender. I'm not sure where that came from. It's my understanding that his lead defense attorney in this case is a man by the name of Mike Howard. Okay, Mike Howard. And it's my understanding that Mike Howard is actually a private defense attorney. He has his own firm. He was a former public defender, but he is now a private defense attorney. I don't believe that Mike Howard was court appointed. You guys can show me evidence to the contrary. I'm not sure where this rumor stems from, but it's my understanding that Mike Howard was privately hired by the Anthony family, and he represented Karmelo in this case. Okay? According to his biography, if I didn't already say this, did I already say this? I actually don't know if I already said it, so I'm going to say it anyway. He has over 20 years of experience in criminal law, trying criminal cases and such. He also boasts on his website that he has over 120 dismissals for a case, which I find a little bit interesting, only because, okay.
There are two sides to every story. And Karmelo is a 17-year-old kid and an excellent student. He is the captain of his track team. He is the captain of his football team. And prior to this, what was on his mind was what college he was going to go to. This is a tragedy all the way around for both families. Rushing to judgment, trial by public perception and trial by media is not how we ensure justice is done. We are confident that after a full investigation, that the truth will come out.
So for people who want to know, why were you selected? I mean, what is your experience? I mean, you had to be really good.
I can't speak as to why I was selected. In any case, it's important to have an attorney that you connect with, that you feel has the right amount of experience and the right investment in the case. And I'm not speaking to anybody else. I just know that that's important in any case.
Let's carry on. Okay, you guys. So there were two prosecutors in Karmelo's case, right? The one prosecutor that I'm thinking of right now, his name was Bill Wirskye. If I haven't told you guys about what a first assistant district attorney is, let me go ahead and explain this to you. Okay. So Bill Wirskye is the first assistant district attorney. The elected district attorney for that jurisdiction is a man by the name of Greg Willis. And Bill is essentially the second in charge in that whole office, basically, right? So he's not here to play. He's not a fresh out of law school prosecutor. He's done numerous cases. He's tried a lot. And he's the second highest in charge in that whole office. So I just give that information to you for you to do what you will with it.
It is the day after one of the most high-profile Collin County trials has ended. Mm-hmm. Bill Wirskye is the prosecutor who successfully argued Karmelo Anthony should be convicted of murder.
Do you think Karmelo Anthony intended to kill Austin Metcalf?
That's a great question, and you'd have to ask him, but I know he intentionally plunged the knife into Austin Metcalf's chest.
Okay, so in addition to the first assistant district attorney in this case, it's my understanding that Karmelo's second prosecutor in this case, was a man by the name of Dewey Mitchell. So Dewey Mitchell is a chief prosecutor, which means he's not a slouch either. He's not a line deputy. He's not a fresh noob from law school. He's like a supervisory attorney as well. Okay, so let's carry on into what exactly happened. So as I previously told you guys, I was a little shocked at how quickly this trial went by. It's my understanding that the prosecution called 21 witnesses and defense merely called 6, right? And I say merely not to differentiate. I just mean like as a total for a trial of this magnitude, for there to only be 27 witnesses total seems low. It just seems like a low number of witnesses total, right? That's not to put any burden on the defense. The defense is not required to prove or disprove anything. The burden remains with the prosecution, right? But I just thought that was really interesting. I saw a lot of reports that were kind of sad or surprised or shocked, dismayed to see the specific witnesses that weren't called for each side. Like, for example, I saw a lot of reports saying that they thought that Hunter Metcalf was going to testify for the prosecution in this case, merely because he was also there and it's his brother who's the victim, but he didn't end up testifying. So a lot of people were wondering as to why the prosecution didn't put Hunter to testify. I'll be honest and say that I agreed with that. I was just a little concerned as to why Hunter didn't testify. And concerned is probably not the right word. I was just a little shocked to see that he didn't testify. All in all, Hunter's brother was the victim of this. Maybe it was just too hard for him to testify. Maybe he didn't want to be there. Maybe he didn't want to speak anything, you know? So I kind of understand both ends. And then for Karmelo specifically and the defense team, a lot of people were saying that Karmelo had to testify because he was putting on a self-defense claim. And I will tell you, I couldn't disagree with anything more.
The state put on 21 witnesses, 3 days of testimony, but there were 2 people we did not hear from.
He's like, make me move.
Bill tells us they did not want to put Austin Metcalf's twin brother, Hunter, on the stand because it would be traumatizing.
We were actually looking forward to see what Karmelo Anthony would have to say. And, unfortunately, he chose not to talk.
I'm shocked by that because I've never seen a self-defense case where the defendant does not testify. It's like Law 101. If you're going to claim self-defense, you have to get on the stand and say that I was in reasonable fear of my life. I've never seen a case where they don't get on the stand to do so, unless there's like a video that shows you, but there is not a clear video here. And so you don't have anything but a he said, and the he, as in the defendant, he didn't testify.
As I've told you guys a million times before, a defendant is entitled to the right to remain silent. Like a defendant has the right to remain silent. Like, I don't know how many times we have to explain it and how many other ways we have to explain it. Defendant has the right to remain silent. He doesn't have to say anything. And I understand what people are saying, like, oh, well, Karmelo is claiming self-defense, so shouldn't he get on the stand and share his side of the story? Let's differentiate that with a recent case that we just learned about, shall we? Rick Chow was the Asian store owner who shot a black 14-year-old boy in the back, and he claimed self-defense or defense of others because of also his son. And he didn't take the stand. But he was acquitted. Do you know what I'm saying? So I don't think you always have to take the stand just because you're claiming self-defense, right? Also, and you guys, I'll just be frank with you guys. I've probably re-recorded this video no less than 4 times, from different audio issues to visuals to, like, so much has been going on. So if I already said this, please excuse me. I don't know if I said it in this version of the video, the last version of the video, the version before, I don't know. Okay. But if I didn't already say it, I think it was appropriate for the court to give the self-defense instruction in this case. Have we talked about what a scintilla of evidence is? In order for a defendant to have a self-defense instruction, literally there only needs to be a scintilla of evidence. Do you know what scintilla means? It means like this, like my non-existent nails, like a grain of rice right here, like a grain of salt right here. It's really small. And I do think, regardless of what the naysayers have to say, that Karmelo Anthony established the scintilla of evidence to present a self-defense case or claim or instruction to the jury, right? Now, we all know the jury ultimately rejected it and said this wasn't self-defense and convicted him of first-degree murder. But regardless, I think if the court did not allow for the self-defense instruction, this would have been reversible error. So I do think the court properly gave the instruction, and let's carry on. Okay, you guys, so despite the fact that I believe that the court properly gave the self-defense instruction in this case, you can go back to my very first video and quote me when we talked about Karmelo Anthony. I never believed this was a self-defense case. And I'll explain to you why not right now. According to Texas Penal Code Section 9.31, self-defense. A person is justified in using force against another when and to the degree the actor reasonably believes the force is immediately necessary to protect the actor against the other's use or attempted use of unlawful force. The actor's belief that the force was immediately necessary, as described by this subsection, is presumed to be reasonable if the actor, 1, knew or had reason to believe that the person against whom the force was used unlawfully and with force entered or was attempting to enter unlawfully and with force the actor's occupied habitation, vehicle, or place of business or employment. B, unlawfully and with force removed or was attempting to remove unlawfully and with force the actor from the actor's habitation, vehicle, or place of business or employment. Or C, was committing or attempting to commit aggravated kidnapping, murder, sexual assault, aggravated sexual assault, robbery, or aggravated robbery. 2, did not provoke the person against whom the force was used. And 3, was not otherwise engaged in criminal activity other than a Class C misdemeanor that is a violation of a law or ordinance regulating traffic at the time the force was used. B, the use of force against another is not justified. 1, in response to verbal provocation alone. 2, to resist an arrest or search that the actor knows is being made by a peace officer or by a person acting in a peace officer's presence and at his direction, even though the arrest or search is unlawful, unless the resistance is justified under subsection C. 3, if the actor consented to the exact force used or attempted by the other. 4, if the actor provoked the other's use or attempted use of unlawful force, unless A, the actor abandons the encounter or clearly communicates to the other his intent to do so, reasonably believing he cannot safely abandon the encounter, and B, the other nevertheless continues or attempts to use unlawful force against the actor. Okay, you guys, so those are the elements required for self-defense in Texas. I never believed that this was a self-defense case because the force needs to be proportional, right? And I think we might have talked about proportionality maybe in that first video, but in essence, merely because Austin shoves or pushes or, puts his hands on Karmelo does not give him the authority, as in Karmelo, to stab him, okay? It doesn't give him the authority to stab him. Now, I know for a fact that the jurors were instructed on the lesser charge of manslaughter in addition to murder. Okay. So they were instructed on both of those things. And that's what they were deliberating. They were deliberating whether this was done in self-defense, whether this was a manslaughter, and whether or not this was a murder. Obviously, they decided on murder, but let's go ahead and read what manslaughter says to see why we could possibly hypothesize that they didn't believe this was a manslaughter. Under Texas Penal Code 1904, a person commits an offense of manslaughter if he recklessly causes the death of an individual. Under Texas Penal Code Section 603, a person acts recklessly or is reckless with respect to circumstances surrounding his conduct or the result of his conduct when he is aware of but consciously disregards a substantial and unjustifiable risk that the circumstances exist or the result will occur. The risk must be of such a nature and degree that its disregard constitutes a gross deviation from the standard of care that an ordinary person would exercise under all circumstances as viewed from the actor's standpoint. Okay, you guys, before we give my opinions on whether it's manslaughter, murder, or what I thought that the outcome should be, or my opinions on the outcome as a whole, let's go into the first-degree murder statute in Texas to see what the jurors actually convicted Karmelo of. Under Texas Penal Code Section 1902, a person commits the offense of murder if the person, 1, intentionally or knowingly causes the death of an individual, 2, intends to cause serious bodily injury and commits an act clearly dangerous to human life that causes the death of an individual, 3, commits or attempts to commit a felony other than manslaughter and in the course of and in furtherance of the commission or attempt or an immediate flight from the commission or attempt, the person commits or attempts to commit an act clearly dangerous to human life that causes the death of an individual, or 4, knowingly manufactures or delivers a controlled substance included in penalty group 1B under section 481.1022. By the definitions that we just read, right? And specifically focusing on section 2 of the first degree murder that we just read as it relates to Texas, Karmelo did an act that was intended to cause serious bodily harm that ultimately ended with Austin's death. I mean, Texas is one of those weird ones. I remember when we talked about different states and I was like, man, Florida and Texas are interesting, right? And I've said that from the beginning. Texas is one of those weird ones, but by that definition, can I see why the jurors convicted him of murder versus manslaughter? Sure. I don't believe this was a self-defense case. I said that from the beginning. I did believe that there was going to be a conviction in this case. I wasn't completely sure which way the jurors are leaning. What I did say from the beginning in this case, and I'm going to stand on it no matter how many times you guys don't want to hear me say it, I think that this is a tragedy from both sides. Both. Austin's family lost their son, their brother, their confidant, someone super important to them, their family member. They lost him. He's gone and he's never coming back. And similarly, not identically, but similarly, Karmelo's family lost their son, their brother, their family member, someone they loved, at least temporarily, while he does minimum 50% of a 35-year sentence. And I think that it's just tragic and it was completely senseless. And all of this was completely avoidable. Do you guys remember how I told you about, like, in most situations when we're dealing with first degree murder, the options as far as sentences are concerned are life with or without parole? That's pretty typical, right? But Texas is a weird state, okay? So Texas separates it by capital murder and first degree murder. And if my understanding of this is correct, and go back and watch the last video because I think I might have shared more on this with you guys in the last video. But for capital murder, Karmelo would have been facing life imprisonment with or without parole or the death sentence, right? Because he was just convicted of first degree murder here instead of capital murder. Instead, his sentencing options were arranged from 5 to 99 years. the court sentenced him, is that middle? It's not in the middle, but sentenced him to 35 years. So somewhere in that range, not the lowest, not the highest, just somewhere in that range. I think it was sad for all of this to happen. I told you guys at the beginning when we talked about Karmelo to begin with that this was not a race case. Okay. I think that the media tried to portray Karmelo as a thug, some miscreant, some, gangster, some kid that was out here for blood. And that's not how I saw it ever. From what I read, Karmelo was a good kid. He had over a 3.6 or 3.7 GPA. He was working multiple jobs to help his family make ends meet. I believe he had scholarship opportunities to different colleges. He was a good, smart kid. Likewise, so was Austin. I think, unfortunately, just given the time that we're in, when you're dealing with two people of differing races, it's almost inevitably going to be a factor, despite that not being any sort of motive in the underlying case or facts. I am saddened for both families because this was a tragedy on both ends and it did not need to happen. Wait, before I let you guys go, another thing that I wanted to point out was the fact that there was a lot of chatter about how there were no Black people on Karmelo's jury. And while that matters, right? Because representation will always matter to a certain extent. I think that the chatter should be silenced immediately because both sides, whenever we're doing trials, both sides have a hand in picking the jury, right? So from my perspective, obviously not being in the courtroom, obviously not seeing what happened, obviously not knowing the total makeup and demographic of this county, it's as much on the defense team as it is on the prosecution that there were no Black people on the jury. That's just kind of what it is. Going back to what I was saying, this is an unfortunate set of circumstances. I honestly just wish this wouldn't have happened. It was totally preventable. And that's that. Now, before I let you guys go, I know that this is a heated case because I saw when you guys told me all your comments on the first video. I understand that you might disagree with me, and that's fine. That's fine. But what I will not withstand is disagreement that comes with insults, threats, attacks, personal attacks, character assassination. I get paid to argue with people for a living. I'm not about to argue with y'all in my comment section for free. Okay? But those are my thoughts on this case. And before I let y'all go, remember that I did this video for you bald nailed. I ain't got no nails. I'm outside of my comfort zone and I'm doing this for you and I'm working for you because I want to bring you the commentary that you deserve and you enjoy from me. So if you like this video, can you please tell me you like it? If you didn't like it, get your hating ass away from my video. Okay? But all in all, please let me know how you feel. Give me your thoughts, your opinions, your comments on this case. I stand by the fact that this is a tragedy on both ends, but let me know how you feel. Please like and subscribe as well. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Whoa. I can't believe I was about to end this video without letting you guys know. Karmelo was formally convicted and sentenced yesterday. As of the making this video, he has filed a notice of appeal. I know that a lot of people are up in arms. As I've told you guys, when people file appeals, it's their right to do so. Also, he didn't file the actual appeal. He just filed a notice of appeal, which has to be filed in Texas within 10 days of rendering of the sentence. Okay. So he's just reserving his right to future file an appeal or file an appeal in the future. That's all he's doing. And it has to be filed within 10 days of imposition of the sentence, which was already imposed yesterday. So it's a short timeline. I know that he filed that notice. When the appeal is filed and if it becomes public and you guys want to talk about it, I will share that with you if I have access to it, okay? But now, as I was previously saying, as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Until next time, y'all take care.